Go grab your ketchup bottle. Check the ingredients. Because I tested Heinz against a store brand at a barbecue with 8 people, and only one picked Heinz. That bottle cost 50% more. Here's the scary part, many of those store brands are made in the same factories, with the same formulas. Yet the average American family spends over $15,000 a year on groceries, and a huge chunk goes toward brand names, not better food. We're counting down the 10 worst food brands, and number 1 is sitting in your kitchen right now. 10. Frozen convenience brands. Let's kick off the countdown. Picture this, it's Wednesday night, you're exhausted from work, and you reach into the freezer for a ready-made dinner. It feels like you're saving time. But let me show you what it's actually costing. A single-serving frozen meal can easily cost $4 or more, and premium options creep into the $7 to $19 range. That means if you're eating frozen dinners just 3 nights a week, you could be spending over $1,200 a year on meals that taste like reheated cardboard. The same dish is made from scratch with fresh vegetables, grain, and protein. About half that. The quality tells the whole story. Frozen convenience meals rely on sodium, preservatives, and highly processed elements to maintain shelf life. The vegetables become soggy, proteins turn rubbery, and the overall meal is uninviting compared to anything you'd cook fresh. Here's the fix that changed everything for a friend of mine. She started batch cooking on Sundays. 2 hours, 5 meals prepped, stored in her own containers in the freezer. Same grab-and-go convenience, half the price, and it actually tasted good. A sheet pan of chicken thighs with roasted vegetables takes 30 minutes and costs about $2 a serving. No culinary degree required. Just a baking sheet and an oven. But if you're not ready to cook from scratch, at least switch to store-brand frozen meals. They're typically 20 to 30% cheaper, sometimes made in the same facilities, and taste about the same. Now let's move to number 9, which is pure nostalgia bait. 9. Key Foods, or Little Debbie. I'll admit it, I grew up grabbing oatmeal cream pies from the pantry without a second thought. That Little Debbie mascot felt like a childhood friend. But here's what that nostalgia is actually costing you: sugar, refined flour, and a long list of additives, all wrapped in a memory. Little Debbie products are classic ultra-processed snacks that nutrition experts consistently flag as some of the least nutritious options in the snack aisle. High sugar, almost zero fiber. And despite that criticism, Key has said they have no plans to adjust their formulas. Many store-brand snack cakes have nearly identical ingredient lists for less per serving. But the real move? Skip the snack cake aisle entirely. A banana with peanut butter costs about 50 cents, actually fills you up, and won't leave you crashing an hour later. Swap your daily Little Debbie for that combo and you'll save over $300 a year while cutting out a mountain of processed sugar. Your body will notice the difference even if your taste buds miss the mascot. And speaking of things that pretend to be healthy, number 8 is the one that surprised me the most. 8. Bottled smoothie brands. This one made me angry when I did the math. A coworker of mine was buying a naked smoothie every single morning, convinced it was a healthy start to her day. That's $5 a day, over $1,800 a year, on what is basically sugar water with a fruit label on the front. A standard bottle of Naked or Bolthouse smoothie can contain over 50 grams of sugar, sometimes as much as a can of soda, but with very little fiber to slow absorption. Many of these beverages are pasteurized in ways that strip out heat-sensitive nutrients compared to what you'd get blending fresh ingredients yourself. Here's the reality check: making a similar smoothie at home with frozen fruit, a banana, yogurt, and some spinach costs about $1.50 and takes 3 minutes. You get more fiber, less sugar, and you actually know what's in it. A decent blender costs $30 to $50 and pays for itself in 2 weeks of skipping bottled smoothies. The marketing says fruit and veggies, but the reality is closer to sweetened juice. If you're spending $5 a day on these, that's nearly $2,000 a year for a product that's nutritionally closer to soda than a real smoothie. That's not a health habit. That's a marketing subscription. And by the way, if you think paying $2,000 a year for fake healthy drinks is bad, wait until we get to number 1. That brand has been quietly losing a war against store brands for years and is now slashing its own prices just to survive. But people still buy it out of pure habit. We'll get there. 7. General Mills. General Mills is one of those brands that's so deeply embedded in American kitchens, most people never stop to question it. Cheerios for breakfast, Pillsbury for baking, Nature Valley for snacking, your plate for a quick yogurt. It feels wholesome. It feels trusted. And that's exactly what they're banking on, literally. Here's what made my jaw drop. General Mills announced price hikes of up to 20% across dozens of product lines, hitting everything from Cheerios and Lucky Charms to Pillsbury and Fruit Roll UPS. 20%. On cereal and cookie dough. And their own CEO admitted that the sales drop was caused by what he called stronger than anticipated value-seeking behaviors, which is corporate speak for customers realized they were being overcharged and started buying cheaper brands. And that's exactly what's happening. While General Mills raised prices, store brand alternatives surged, with generic cereal sales jumping roughly 20%. The company even acknowledged internally that price sensitivity had become too much of a barrier for consumers to keep choosing their products. Think about what that means for your wallet. If you're buying General Mills products across breakfast, snacks, and baking, you could easily be overpaying $30 to $50 a month compared to store brands. That's $360 to $600 a year, on the same basic ingredients: oats, flour, sugar, and vitamins. The fix is embarrassingly simple. Next time you're reaching for Cheerios, grab the store brand oat cereal sitting right below it. Same ingredients, same nutrition label, usually 40% cheaper. For baking, store brand flour and biscuit dough are virtually identical to Pillsbury. And for granola bars, buy oats, honey, and nuts in bulk and make your own in 20 minutes. You'll get a better product and keep hundreds of dollars in your pocket. 6. Tyson Foods. Here's one that hits almost every American family: Tyson Foods. They're the biggest meat company in the country, controlling roughly 1/5 of all the beef, chicken, and pork sold in America. And behind their familiar brands like Tyson, Jimmy Dean, Hillshire Farm, and Ball Park, there's a pattern of rising prices that should have you looking at the shelf a little more carefully. Let me tell you what happened at my local store last week. A bag of Tyson frozen chicken nuggets was $9.49 for 32 ounces. The Walmart Great Value brand sitting right next to it? $5.88 for the same weight. That's a 61% markup for chicken nuggets that multiple taste tests have shown are barely distinguishable from the store brand. In some reviews, the store brand actually scored higher. And the price hikes have been aggressive. Tyson raised its average chicken prices by over 15%, beef by nearly 12%, and pork by a staggering 39% in recent periods. Meanwhile, the company has faced multiple price-fixing lawsuits and recently agreed to pay $82.5 million to settle claims that it illegally inflated beef prices for years. Here's the uncomfortable truth: Tyson's frozen and processed products, like nuggets, patties, sausages, and deli meats, are heavily processed regardless of the brand name. The store brand version uses similar cuts, similar processing, and in many cases comes from the same supply chain. You're not getting premium meat. You're getting premium branding. The smart move: for frozen chicken, buy the store brand and pocket the difference. For fresh chicken, buy whole birds or bone-in thighs and prep them yourself. A whole chicken costs around $1.50 per pound and gives you enough meat for multiple meals. That's less than half the per-serving cost of Tyson's pre-seasoned, pre-packaged products. Your wallet will notice the difference immediately. 5. Unilever food brands. Halfway through the list, and now we're getting to the brands that really rely on brand loyalty to survive. Unilever owns Hellmann's mayonnaise, Knorr sauces, and Ben & Jerry's. And if you're reflexively reaching for Hellmann's every single time without even glancing at the shelf below it, I need you to hear this. Unilever has been raising prices across its food products, with a large part of its recent performance coming from price increases instead of growth in demand. Shoppers are pushing back, actively switching to cheaper alternatives because they don't see the value anymore. Hellmann's is losing market share to competitors like Duke's, which is cheaper and growing faster. When people actually compare, the brand name stops mattering. Unilever's ingredient lists are basic and standardized, similar to store brands that cost significantly less. Here's your action step: grab Duke's or a store brand and do your own blind test at home. Put them on 2 identical crackers, unlabeled, and see if you or your family can actually tell the difference. I've done this with friends and the results are always the same. Most people can't pick the expensive one. But your receipt will show a $2 to $3 gap per jar, and over a year of buying mayo, salad dressings, and sauces, that gap becomes serious money you could be spending on things that actually matter. Speaking of blind tests, remember that #1 brand I mentioned? I actually ran a blind taste test at a barbecue with 8 people. The results were embarrassing for the brand. But I'll save that story for when we get there. 4. Mondelez. Number 4 is the snack empire that runs on pure nostalgia. Here's a story that might sting. A family I know budgeted $60 a week on snacks, almost all Mondelez products, Oreos, Chips Ahoy, Ritz, Cadbury. When they switched to store brand equivalents, same types of snacks, their weekly spend dropped to $35. That's $1,300 saved in a year. On cookies and crackers. Mondelez is a masterclass in selling simple ingredients at premium prices. When you break it down, you're paying for flour, sugar, oil, cocoa, and flavoring. Nothing premium about that recipe. In 2025, Mondelez's prices went up by about 8% while volumes fell by nearly 3.7%. People are buying less because it's getting too expensive. Then there's shrinkflation. Cadbury has been called out for shrinking product sizes while hiking prices, meaning you're paying more per gram than before. Store brand alternatives exist for almost every Mondelez product, often made in the same contract factories with identical ingredients. So the question isn't whether store brands are as good. It's whether you're willing to pay 40% more for a childhood memory printed on a box. Try the store brand Oreo once. Just once. If you can't tell the difference, you've just unlocked your easiest annual savings. But the next 3 brands are even worse offenders. 3. Nestlé. Now we're in the top 3, and this one hits different because Nestlé is literally everywhere. Coffee, chocolate, frozen meals, bottled water. I tried going a full week without buying a single Nestlé product. It was shockingly hard, which tells you how dominant they are. But dominant doesn't mean worth the price. Nestlé has admitted that much of its recent growth comes from raising prices, not selling more. In 2025, pricing alone drove 2 to 3% of sales growth while volume barely moved. People aren't buying more. They're just paying more. Nestlé has been repeatedly linked to shrinkflation, where products quietly get smaller while prices stay the same or rise. Your favorite coffee jar might be 10% lighter than it was 2 years ago. Same jar, same shelf position, same price, less product inside. That's not inflation. That's a magic trick they're hoping you won't catch. These price hikes have pushed many shoppers to cheaper alternatives. The fix: for coffee, buy whole beans in bulk and grind them yourself, or grab the store brand. For chocolate, check the international aisle where European brands often deliver better cocoa quality at lower prices. For frozen meals, batch cook on weekends and freeze your own. Every one of these swaps saves you money and gives you a better product. And if Nestlé being number 3 shocks you, buckle up. The #1 brand on this list is so overpriced that the company had to cut its own sales forecast because customers were leaving in droves. Yet somehow, it's still in almost every kitchen in America. We're almost there. 2. Kellogg's cereals. Number 2 on the list is hiding in plain sight in almost every American kitchen. Try something next time you're in the cereal aisle. Pick up Kellogg's Corn Flakes and the store brand sitting right beside it. Flip them both over and read the ingredients. When you realize they're virtually identical, you'll wonder why you've been paying 50% more for a cartoon rooster on the box. Name brand cereals like Kellogg's sell for $4.50 to $6.99, while store brands are closer to $2.79 to $3.99. If your family goes through 2 boxes a week, that's roughly $400 a year in savings just from switching to generic. $400 on cereal. That's money you're literally pouring into a bowl every morning. Those cereals are made from the same core ingredients: processed grains, sugar, salt, and added vitamins. There's nothing premium about cornflakes. It's one of the cheapest products to manufacture. The difference is that Kellogg spends heavily on advertising, and that cost gets passed directly to you. Private label cereal sales have been rising by about 6%, while Kellogg's volumes dropped by up to 5%. The people doing the math are already saving hundreds. The question is whether you'll join them or keep funding Super Bowl commercials with your breakfast budget. And now, let's get to number 1. The biggest, most common offender on this entire list. The one brand almost every American has in their kitchen right now. 1. Kraft Heinz. And here it is. The number 1 worst food brand that people buy purely on autopilot. I saved Kraft Heinz for last because it's the one that personally gets me the most frustrated. This is the brand equivalent of paying rent on a name you don't even need. Let me paint the picture. I was at a barbecue last summer and the host had Heinz ketchup on the table. Someone brought a store brand bottle as a joke. We did a blind taste test with 8 people. 5 couldn't tell the difference. 2 actually preferred the store brand. Only 1 picked Heinz. And the Heinz bottle had cost 50% more. 8 people, 1 winner, and it wasn't the expensive one. Kraft Heinz products are made with basic mass-produced ingredients: corn, sugar, salt, oils, and preservatives, the same stuff in cheaper store brands. Supermarket private labels are often produced in similar facilities following nearly identical formulations. You're paying for the label, not what's inside the bottle. Kraft Heinz has been losing market share as shoppers switch to alternatives. The company recently cut its sales outlook, expecting a 3 to 3.5% decline. They've been forced to run discounts just to stay competitive. Think about that. If a premium brand has to constantly discount itself to compete with generics, it was never really premium. It was just overpriced. Here's my challenge to you, and this is the most important takeaway from this entire video. This week, pick one Kraft or Heinz product you always buy and replace it with the store brand. Just one. Ketchup, mac and cheese, salad dressing, whatever it is. Try it for one single week. If you honestly think the name brand is worth 30 to 50% more after that, go back to it. But I'm betting you won't. And once that first switch clicks, the rest will follow. 10 brands, 1 pattern, you're paying for logos, not quality. Switching even 3 of these could save your family over $1,000 a year. Now go to your kitchen, grab a branded product, flip it over, and compare the first 3 ingredients to the store brand next time you shop. If they match, comment same below. And if someone you know is still paying brand tax on every grocery trip, send them this video.